created Sekhem courses because one of the people that I worked on who had a very serious illness, she said to me one day, "Do you teach this?" And I said, "No." And there was this very accusing, "Why not?" And she just kept on, "Why not?" But I didn't know how to teach it. I could teach occupational health, I could teach all sorts of things. In those days I used to do a course called Pathways to Healing and looking at why we didn't heal back in the 80s. But I had no idea how to teach Sekhem, and that took me a while to work it out. Sekhem is taught on 3 different levels. In the very early days, I used to put 1 and 2 together for people who had worked with high energies at that time. But now there is so much more in the courses that we've even lengthened a 2-day course to a 3-day one. They're very experiential courses, and you just could not teach them all together, not even one after the other, because you have to get used to that level of energy before you can double it or triple it to do the next course, because there's big differences between the first level and the second one. And also you need to be able to understand how you can use the energy and what the energy is going to do for you, because everybody uses things slightly differently, because it has to mix with your personality and your knowledge and your understanding of universal law, and a whole variety of things that you cannot learn in a course. It would take years sometimes to do things like that. And there's a time difference between the different levels, a minimum time. Some people will take years before they feel ready to go on to the next course. And some people are champing at the bit like, well, before they've even tried this one, when can I do the next one? And I say, well, you have to work with it and understand how you're going to use it and how it's going to use you. It's very experiences course, starting at level 1, which is a 3-day course. And the first day is a certain amount of getting in touch with the unseen things of this world. And then we go into some theory. But as we learn each aspect of the theory, then you practice it on each other. And then you put the symbols and how you draw them and why you draw them this way, etc. Because any deviation in the drawing of the symbols brings in a different energy. And so it does become very experiential, but in stages. You learn a bit of theory and you practice it. And you learn a bit of theory and you practice it. So that by the end of the 3 days, and most of the 3rd day is to do with giving and receiving a complete treatment each. But then a lot of the ethical aspects of how to use this energy as well. The second level is much more intense than the first one, because you're moving up into higher levels of the frequency. And so you are learning symbols that will access very different aspects of the energy. There is a certain amount of understanding that needs to be done so that you do understand exactly what you're accessing by the different symbols. Some people love some, and some people think, oh no, I don't like that one. Some are very complex because you're getting then into building power on other power. And so they do take a little bit of practice and a little bit of getting used to. But there are symbols in that second level that I would not like to live without. And then the 3rd level, you're going very much into the higher aspects of this energy. That is what I call the practitioner level. I mean, most people could call themselves practitioner perhaps at the 2nd level, but the 3rd level you've learnt all you need to know. And there are some aspects of that that people say, well, I don't want to go any higher. I think there's an age-old thing that says if you can do it, you do it, and if you can't, you teach it. And so the practitioners who say, I haven't got time to teach this. This is what I need to do, to use this to help people. And there are other ones that have the superb skills. And often they will ally it with other things that they've learned, other aspects of their personality, and they can become absolutely superb at what they do. I think everybody has their own ideas of what they want to get out of Sekhem. The majority of people will say, I just need a tool to help my family. Women particularly will say, I need to learn this. I think the women are the healers of this world, very especially the wives and mothers. And they're the unsung heroes, or heroines I should say, of the healings in the world. Because really, who sends you guys off to the doctor? Who talks to you and say, there, dear, it'll be all right? Different way, that's what you might say to a child. You're going to say the same thing very differently to your husband and your adult sons, etc. But I think that the health of a nation and a civilization rests with the women. And so 2/3 of the people that learn Sekhem are women. And the majority will say, I just need to be able to have something that will help my family. There was one lady who came to me when I lived in Paran, and she came to my home, although at that time I was working from the office in South Melbourne usually, but she only lived up the road. So she came to my home and I just worked on her in my lounge room. And she came because she was angry, and angry at so many things. And so we talked a lot about why she was angry and all the rest of it, but she only had one session. And working on the session, I could feel the shifts in the other levels going on. Now, I don't know how that manifests in people's lives, and I never bothered to try and find out. Sometimes they will tell you, but I can feel those shifts as you work. And at the very end of it, she got off the table and sort of, in a somewhat condescending manner, said, that was nice, dear. And I went, I thought I'd done quite a good job. And I never heard from her again, but then Sekhem often only needs one session. And was over a year later, I was in the supermarket, and she came up to me and said, I've been meaning to ring you up and say thank you and da-da-da-da-da. And she introduced me to her husband, who said, you're the miracle lady. And I said, what? He said, you not only changed her, but you changed our whole family. And that's a specific story, but in many ways it's also fairly indicative of how one session of Sekhem can change people and those around them as well. Because if you change one person and their attitudes, those around them have to change as well.